today to celebrate the International Domestic Workers Day. My name is Rula, and I will be moderating today's session. Before we start, a few technical notes. On the bottom of the screen, you will see a globe where you can find interpretation. We have various channels. We have French, Portuguese, Spanish, Bahasa Indonesian, Tagalog, Hindi, Swahili, and Thai. So please choose the interpretation channel that you will be using for the session. And in other technical notes, drop us a little message in the chat box, introduce yourself. Some of you are already doing this. We would love to meet you. And do not hesitate to send us any questions in the Q&A. We will make sure to answer either in the Q&A session, and if we do not, we will respond to you through a report later. So welcome to those who are joining us for our event titled Resilience and Sustainability, Domestic Workers Organizing Through the Pandemic and Beyond. This year marks the 11th anniversary of Domestic Workers Convention C189, the fruit of the struggle of many unions around the world that continue to push through structural, socioeconomic, and political boundaries to ensure that no domestic worker is left behind. Today, we celebrate your resistance. So much has changed over the past 2 years: the economic landscape, the nature of the world of work, the size of the civil space that is shrinking. But one thing remains certain: it is your commitment to domestic workers' rights. So today we will discuss domestic workers' unions and their sustainability, and what have they done over the past few years to ensure the continuity of their work, and what are they planning to do not only for survival, but to continue on building a decent work for domestic workers. So without further ado, please welcome Myrtle Whitboy, a award-winning labor unionist and the first person to lead the first ever International Labor Federation run by women for a work that is dominated by women, the IDWF. President Myrtle, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to all of you. It's a great pleasure to be here once again as we celebrate 11 years of Convention 189. And also, if we look back at the 3 years that has put us back, but domestic workers in the world has proved themselves that they can survive through this epidemic. We have tried lots of things to see how we can actually survive. We have resisted what has come to us, and we have go forward. We start projects, we start several other things, and we even increase our mobilizing, and we even increase our membership. What did it prove to us? Once again, it proved to us that the IDWF, controlled by women, domestic workers, is so powerful that we did not stop at anything. We did not stop and sit down and feel sorry for ourselves. We carry on, we mobilize, we educate, we do everything. In Africa, in the world, we are so proud. Today, we have several guests here on our project. We hope that they will listen to us. We hope that they will understand our struggle is a different struggle. But we have reached a stage where we don't feel sorry for ourselves any longer. We have stand up now. We have take back what they gave to us 11 years ago at the ILO. We said, today we've got our dignity, we've got our pride, we've got our strength. And we are going forward with this. We are going to build, we are going to carry on, we are going to look at sustainability. And within our own countries, we are going to help the IDWF that we remain that global federation that won't fail. So I wish you well. I'm also here today to learn from all of you. And I hope that when we get out of this, and as we go also in South Africa on the 16th, which we are very lucky because in South Africa, the 16th is a public holiday. So our domestic workers will be off and we will celebrate in also Convention 189. So go well. Thank you, Lola, Elizabeth, Carmen, all the executive members and all the guests. May we continue to grow stronger and stronger. I thank you.
Thank you, Myrtle. Indeed, may we continue to grow stronger and stronger, and viva the struggle of domestic workers worldwide. Now we will look at footage from all over the globe of what have domestic workers accomplished in the past year when it comes to the ratification of C-189, C-190, but also their mobilizing and unionizing.
The International Domestic Workers Federation has shown the world that we are united and we will support wherever we can.
Estamos diciendo, el Código de Trabajo está diciendo que nosotros tenemos una jornada de 16 horas diarias. Parece que salir embarazada o es pecado o es una enfermedad contagiosa, porque son despedidas.
I think what it has bring up is how domestic workers are suffering.
All of our leaders are active in engaging to barangays in getting relief goods and financial subsidy. 80% of our members lost their jobs due to COVID-19 spread out.
It brings up the lack of support for domestic workers.
I distribute relief goods to help my fellow migrant domestic workers. And also from the Alliance, in our group, we repack and distribute also 100 bags every Saturday to our fellow migrant domestic workers in all nationalities.
Was in our own governments. It brings out how our governments again sideline domestic workers with
Serikat juga membantu PRT yang kehilangan pekerjaan. Kami lebih nyaman untuk melapor kepada serikat karena kami percaya mereka.
Today, it is a very significant day to be recognized as a worker.
म लगायत मेरो नेपाली आसाम ट्रेड युनियन हुनुको तर्फबाट चाहिँ तपाईहरुलाई मे दिवसको शुभकामना दिन चाहन्छु.
Hacemos un llamado a todas las compañeras trabajadoras del hogar para que se afilien al sindicato Sin Trobar.
Now we have to work on our sustainability fund. We have to work on projects to strengthen our unions, to strengthen our organization. And we can only do this if we stand together.
Indeed, so clear sustainability plans for our unions is what we are discussing today. And to do so, we will have two panels. The first panel will be an internal look at our federation at IDWF and its sustainability conversations that have been had over the past, alongside with funders to discuss their commitment to supporting domestic worker organizing and supporting membership-based organizations. This first panel discusses the economic models that we employ. The economic models employed by labor movements must leverage more power in the hands of its members through identity construction, governance system, and the resources by employing membership fees. Nonetheless, we also employ other methods due to the need of additional resources and income, the direct correlation with the individual prosperity of the members and the national circumstances, economic circumstances of certain countries, the regional disparities that we experience when we think of international organizing, the changing civil and political space, the changing economic landscape, so many complexities to discuss in this first panel, which explores the various commitments to optimize our sustainability. So without further ado, we are joined by Elizabeth Tang, our General Secretary and pioneer trade unionist, who has worked extensively in progressive movement organizing in Asia and beyond, to discuss IDWF's sustainability plans. Elizabeth, the floor is yours. Okay, so we are trying to reach Elizabeth. She was just here. So just a moment until Elizabeth identifies herself. And alongside Elizabeth, I will take this moment to introduce the two other panelists that will be joining us. Through the video conferencing, we will be joined by the Director of Fair Work in International Migration Initiative of the Open Societies Foundation, Elizabeth France. And we are also joined live by Ghada Abdel Tawab, who is a Senior Program Officer working from the Foundation's Cairo office at Ford Foundation. Her grant making has supported civil society, government, and academic institutions to promote social justice in the Middle East and beyond. And this is our first panel. I'm checking if Elizabeth is back. Okay, so in the meantime, we will revert a little bit the order and we will look at the video of Elizabeth France from Open Societies Foundation, who has sent us a warm message on this day.
Greetings. Thanks so much for inviting me to join you on International Domestic Workers Day. My name's Elizabeth France, and I work with the Open Society Foundations, the largest private funder working on human rights, equality, and justice issues worldwide. The International Domestic Workers Federation has been an important and trusted partner of ours for a number of years. Its work, hand in hand with all of you as affiliates, is crucial in building strong organizations run by and for domestic workers, and working across the globe to ensure that domestic workers achieve economic security and opportunity, protections, respect, and dignity in the workplace. Our mission at the Open Society Foundations is to build inclusive democracies whose governments are accountable to their citizens. Independent and democratic worker organizations are vital to this mission. Workers' rights to organize, assemble, and bargain are pivotal to building democracies that deliver good jobs and fair workplaces. And so, one component of our partnership with the IDWF in the last 2 years has involved looking at pathways towards achieving greater financial sustainability for the Federation and members. There hasn't been much research on revenue generation options for worker organizations, especially for those in the Global South. So we partnered on a project to document practices and experiments in revenue generation. The IDWF will be publishing a report later this year, which presents the insights from that research. I'll be really excited to see that work launched. We're now 11 years from the passage of ILO Convention 189. As you know better than I do, we have a long ways to go still in the battle for equal protections and fair wages for domestic workers. This is a global problem. It's an entrenched problem, but I do believe change is possible. We can win the battle for equal pay, for social protections that cover domestic workers, and we can end the everyday sexism and violence that so many women workers face. This is a collective battle. It's one we can only win together, and that's why organizing will be crucial for any victories that lay ahead. Thank you for what you do, and solidarity.
We send our gratitude to Elizabeth France, who has shared this message with us today. And we will indeed be publishing a report on income generating activities and the sustainability of domestic worker unionizing and organizing over the past 3 years. A lot of lessons have been learned and a lot of insights are yet to be learned through this event today. We will be using parts of this conversation and the knowledge that we will collectively build to also create a conclusion to this report. So I encourage you again to drop your questions to our speakers and to anybody who is with us today in this room. And now we are moving to Ghada Abdel Tawab to discuss also the funders' commitments from the perspective of Ford Foundation when it comes to supporting workers' movements. Ghada, the floor is yours. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Yes, can you hear me now? Yes, fantastic. Thank you so much, and good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are now. And thank you so much for the invite today to celebrate with you the 11th anniversary of C189, a historical recognition of the rights and struggle of domestic workers worldwide. I'm truly humbled by the occasion and by the invite. So thank you so much again. As everyone else said, you know, a decade later, the context is more complex with a global pandemic, an economic and a financial crisis, as well as rising authoritarianism, as Rola emphasized, which is becoming less and less tolerant of people's movements. All this is already having implications on the living conditions, but also the household debt of everyone, including domestic workers. So these are exceptional times, and exceptional times require new tactics, strategies, alliances, and resources. Here, I would like to focus on a couple of points. First, adaptation and resilience. Social movements and organizations go through their ups and downs. There are peak moments of mobilization, like around the time of the C189 endorsement, and there are also down moments during a pandemic or an economic crisis like what we're seeing today. From experience and from our experience as funders working with social movements, organizing, capacity building, and new tactics best develop during those down times to consolidate the gains and prepare for the next wave of mobilization. Movements need therefore to be flexible and adaptive to be able to survive the down moments and regenerate. Funders like us need to be there to support. 1 decade after C189, key questions are: what new tactics, strategies, and approaches are needed for IDWF today and moving forward? How can IDWF continue to evolve and grow with the changing times? Second is independence and accountability. Social movements need to stay independent and accountable to their own members and not just to the donors. This is a key source of legitimacy and credibility of movements, particularly as authoritarian governments continue to discredit civil society and social movements. Donors also shift priorities, leaving movements in a very vulnerable position. With shifting donor priorities, reduced government funding, and decline in membership fees because of the exceptional and unprecedented rising inflation, how can IDWF ensure its financial sustainability and continuity? What new financing strategies are you considering for the next phase? And how can donors like us support? At Ford, we're very happy to be partners with IDWF for the next 5 years. This social justice bond is an exceptional support that Ford has provided to assist movements like IDWF and others during the pandemic and the economic downturn, an exceptional fund for exceptional times. This is a one-off time support to help IDWF and movements develop their capacities, mobilize new resources, and develop gradual independence of donor funding. So as a funder, what have we learned from our experience in building financial resilience of movements and organizations over the years? I want to share some of our quick messages here. The need to diversify sources of funding. Do not rely on a single donor. We've done this with arts and culture, and there was an over-reliance by the arts and culture sector on Ford Foundation. So when Ford Foundation shifted priorities and geographic focus, The arts and culture sector in Egypt really suffered. Secondly, be selective in funding sources. Ethical funding is extremely important for credibility of the movement. You need to make sure that your funders share your values of democracy, of equity, of equality, of participation. You need to build reserves. You need to make sure that you have enough funds for 3 to 6 months in case that can keep you going when donor funding dwindles or stops for some time. Negotiate for core support and not just project support. Unrestricted funding gives you a lot of flexibility. Negotiate for true indirect costs. Ford has set the precedence by setting a minimum of 30% of indirect costs to our partners. And I think that's an important piece of negotiation with your funders moving forward. Finally, continue to invest in strong relationships and alliances to build the trust and the credibility within your ecosystem, and also to learn from other social movements. Cross-movement exchange and learning will be very important in the next phase. Ford Foundation grant is an opportunity to do all that in the next 5 years. We will do everything to support IDWF to make this transition and to become more self-reliant and independent in the future. Thank you for the amazing work you're doing in solidarity. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ghada. And I am glad we are recording this because there are a lot of very valuable points that could be a listicle for the do's and don'ts of preparing for sustainability and negotiations for funders. Very important words indeed about the independence and accountability that are necessary for our movements and for our credibility within the landscape that we navigate. Since we are having trouble reaching Elizabeth right now, I would like to open the space for any Expo members, so perhaps Myrtle or Carmen or Shirley, who are present here and who would like to say a few words about IDWF thinking about its own sustainability over the past few years. If you are available to make a comment about this right now, the floor is yours. So I will just give you a moment if you would like to speak. And if not, we could move to the Q&A. However, we only have Ghada present with us, so it's kind of going to spotlight. I see Carmen opened her camera. Lovely. Thank you so much, Carmen. Could you tell us a little bit about when did IDWF put sustainability on the roadmap and what have we been doing since?
Bueno, sí, es sumamente.
Of course, it's extremely important for our federation to think about sustainability, and not only our organization's sustainability. At the closing, I'll discuss a bit about how we need to become stronger as unions. But the IDWF led the way for sustainability because the IDWF was a newborn baby 5 years ago, but now we are crawling and we're about to start walking. This is an international federation that was very visible because of all the actions that all of our colleagues from all the regions have conducted and how we were able to reinvent ourselves during the COVID-19 pandemic. This was a crisis. Each of our union organizations was able to overcome the situations together with the federation. It's important to have a sustainability path internal for the federation, but also for organizations, our union, that the more sustainable they are, the better we're going to be able to continue working together in this fight, because we love the IDWF and we're all working together. I see Elizabeth now.
Thank you, Carmen, for chipping in with your input about IDWF sustainability. And finally, Elizabeth Tang, the floor is yours. We've been waiting for your contribution. Happy you made it.
Yeah, happy International Domestic Workers Day is one celebration. I'm so pleased to see so many familiar faces here, my leader, my colleagues, our friends, gather, welcome. This is the opportunity for us to celebrate. I remember we started a discussion of making the IDWF sustainable and continue to grow back in 2017. And then in 2018, when we gathered together in Cape Town at our Congress, we passed a resolution to increase our fees. You know, everyone contribute more to keep IDWF going. And we also agreed to set our sustainability funds because we need to keep the core of the IDWF strong. We have support from our partners, our funders, but we also need to be ensured of a secure funding for the IDWF internal organizations. And then we had the COVID. So that slowed down everything. And we were very frustrated during that time. You know, we were wondering how we could move forward, you know, even to survive for some of our affiliates in some places. But then, I mean, now we are here to celebrate because when we look back, we have so much already in place. We have already finished our discussion on affiliation fees increase. I know that plan has yet to be discussed, but at least we have a set of proposals, and we are also ready to go ahead with a sustainability fund. And the most important of all is that despite the COVID, 2 years, our affiliates are still strong, and many have even grown stronger. And that's why I feel this International Domestic Workers Day is the time that, you know, we should celebrate, you know, that, you know, what we have planned, we have been able to go with it and even stronger. And I hope after today, we'll be more united and we'll be even more stronger in solidarity and go forward. Thank you, each one of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Elizabeth. And I would like to remind our participants that this is your chance. You have Ghada Abdel Tawab online with you. You could ask questions to IDWF Executive Committee as well. Drop them in the chat, in the Q&A box, and we will make sure we return to them. So far, we have not received any questions, but do share your questions with us. In the interest of time, we will be responding to the questions at the end of the session. So I will be now moving to our second panel to discuss the experiences of domestic workers, and we will come back to all of our panelists from the first and the second panel together and respond to your questions. So reminder, ask away. These chances are very valuable. So the second panel, we will be discussing domestic workers organizing, because sustainability and resilience is largely in the material and economic sense. It is conceived of through the membership fees, but also it is conceived through the retention of the membership and the mobilizing of this membership. A lot of things that our affiliates and domestic workers work on the ground. So they carry out the primary agenda of establishing social protection and decent work conditions, while at the same time counteracting the effects of the pandemic, something our panelists have already discussed. So not only have they proved resilient in the face of these challenges time and time again, but they have also paved the way for alternative models of income generation, sustainability, economic security, never losing sight of their membership's need. So on this panel, domestic workers from all over the world will share their experience when it comes to their activities that feed towards the sustainability of membership-based organizing. We have with us Jasmine Ruiz, who is a Filipina mother of 3 who moved to Taiwan to work as a domestic worker. There, she built a union for home-based workers, and she was later elected as the union's director. She will share with us the impacts of grassroots organizing that asserted the rights of domestic workers during and after the pandemic. Jasmine?
Hello, good evening.
Good
To
evening.
all of you. Yes.
Hello, good evening.
How to, because I read the Tagalog, how to turn off the,
Paano ba?
okay. Do you hear me?
We hear you perfectly well. Go ahead.
Okay, good evening. My name is Jasmine. I'm a union director here in Taiwan. We established the union in February 2016. And our union started in the beginning. The foundation of our union is from the our campaign in placement fee in 2014. We started to campaign about the overcharging placement fee for the Filipino workers for the domestic caretaker in southern Taiwan, and we successfully got our refund. And from our campaign, we recruited many members of domestic caretaker, and from there we build migrant women in Taiwan. So from that foundation of the group, they are also the founding member of this union. And as I said, was established in February 2016. So our campaign, our union campaign is we continuously campaigning the direct hiring program. And as we all know that Taiwan have a brokerage system, and we are educating the workers and the employer that hiring worker through direct hiring program and is not expensive. And we are also have the Sunday house, and I am in our Sunday house, in our DCU house office right now. And also we are continually campaign for weekly 24 hours day off, because when I arrived here in Taiwan, many of the domestic caretakers don't have day off. And we also campaigning abolish brokerage system, freedom to transfer, and we are handling cases. We are giving education to the members and non-members about their rights and how the union worked during pandemic. Actually, I can say that before the pandemic, there is no much changes, because we organize ourselves through social media. And during the before pandemic, we are able to meet face to face. We have a monthly meeting face to face, but last year we have online meeting because of the pandemic globally and hit Taiwan. Pandemic hit Taiwan, so we cannot face to face meeting, and mostly the employers are and brokers are using this excuse for the workers not to give a day off. And in our experience before the pandemic, we are not really active in media express, and because we have a friendly connection to other local NGO, we are become active in the pandemic last year to join many media express about our situation, to rebuild the situation of domestic worker in Taiwan. So the challenges, I can say that challenges, the challenges in organizing is explaining about the union, and not all workers can understand what union is about. And many of the members are not really oriented what is union about. So many of them would like to join a union because they needed help. But once we solve their cases, It's like they will pay their membership fee, but they forgot the yearly membership fee. So our fund are coming from the monthly contribution of the direct hire member of our union. And one thing I've learned as an organizer for 8 years that I stay in Taiwan, because I arrived in 2014. So I started to campaign about the overcharging a placement fee when I was 6 months working in Taiwan. So I can say that in my 8 years, I am organizing, and I've learned. I'm always saying this because I've learned from the workers what they care and what they care about, and is very too scary for me when I see the workers who would like to join, but they just care because they have their own intention for themselves, but not really have the intention to support and to join the to support and continuously to be a present in the union. So that's what they don't care about. So I am very, very much carefully for these people, because sometimes this is the number one challenges, aside from the bad employers, for the bad employment system, for the bad brokers. They are the enemy, and this is the big challenges to us, and also the government, the leaders, the politician. For me, the number one enemy is myself, because sometimes I can feel I want to give up, and we need to it's a natural feeling that we have a human nature, and so as the other, we have every members different personality, different character. So that means everyone have individual differences. That is hard to organize, that is hard to maintain. Even we have 1,200, not all are paying their rent. I'm sorry, I'm becoming emotional because this is my experience, that my human nature, that everyone have a good side, everyone have a bad side, and every day is not a good day. Every day is not every day is a good day. There is day that I have a bad day, and the cause of my bad mood is because of the organizing. And especially it's hard to organize while you are working and you are apart from your family. So this is the number one challenges, and I know every one of you will agree with me, because of our human nature, that we want to give up. But in my 8 years of organizing in Taiwan, I've learned to develop the compassion, because this is important to organize with compassion and empathy from your heart. And the other challenge, I go to the strategy. I'm sorry for being emotional. The strategy and solution, I may say that good strategy is also the good solution. And as you can see in the slide, you can see that meeting with churches, leaders, and government, and that is one of our strategy. And the next picture, please. The next picture is, we need to promote our action through Media Express and social media. It's a great way to help our support and the society to understand the issues. Next slide, please. Get involved in different activity. So in my experience, in my training, since my younger days, it's very important that you build a friendly connection even to your enemy. And government is the number one enemy. And my experience when I attended a Glover conference in 2019, from there I met the administration of the welfare office for the Filipino foreign workers. And I think the government here, the representative government here, knew that I have the chance to meet them, because the administrator told me and gave me the direct contact. Okay, so it is important that that you are building friendly connection between the government and to your group. You need to get involved with the different groups or NGOs, multicultural NGO, local union or local groups, church leaders and government leaders, local groups and labor activist groups can help spread the word and can be our voices, because we are not a voter in the destination country. And we need to speak up, stand up about your rights and what you care about. Listen to other stories that your group shared, or you can read in our page about the cases we solved. Because you know, in Taiwan, just like other countries, we are not also protected by the law, but we managed to solve the case by writing a petition with our statement of complaints, with our demand. We tried our best to argue our demand based on our right. Make sure every leader has a role that can help to empower the organization. Giving their task is also a key that makes them learn every day. Meeting different attitudes of the members is very important and has a great impact, because we can learn something from them. Stay connected to different local groups that can help spread the word and can be our voices. Take action and talk to the government, legislators. Thank you.
Thank you, Jasmine. And yeah, very well said. And I apologize for interrupting. We could listen to you forever and ever, but we have a lineup that we would get the chance to listen to as well. Therefore, sorry, I had to cut you short. But what you have said, I don't know if you've been looking at the chat box, you have been receiving a lot of solidarity and a lot of love from your fellow organizers from all over the world. And indeed, you have said good strategy is a good solution. So the process is as much of an importance as the results. Thank you for that learning. And now we will move to our speaker from the Africa region. We are joined by Amina Ibrahim, who is a domestic worker, mother, and treasurer of the National Union of Hotels and Personal Services Workers in Nigeria. Amina will share with us her experience in income-generating activities training that has enabled her to put food on the table, and that has also given her an additional capacity to grow in the union. A reminder that I will be showing this, that there is 1 minute left, when there is 1 minute left. And the floor is yours, Amina. Amina, you're still on mute, so can you unmute yourself? Your screen is frozen. If it would help, we can put your picture and you can turn off your camera.
Continue. Speaker notes on income generation activities. During the 10th anniversary of the adoption of Convention 189 by Mrs. Amina Ibrahim, a member of National Union of Hotel and Personal Service Workers, Nigeria. Amina Ibrahim, a domestic worker. The outbreak of COVID-19
Amina, if you could just remove the volume on where you're listening to us and continue speaking. So if you're using your phone as a device, just remove the sound of the phone, but continue speaking.
I'm Mrs. Amina Ibrahim, a domestic worker. The outbreak of COVID-19 in 2020 has brought a untold hardship on families, especially workers without alternative use source of income. As a domestic worker, mother, and wife, attending to my family daily needs become extremely difficult, taxing, which in most cases resulted in quarrel in the home. A domestic worker engaged in maintaining my employer's household, and most especially the little children of the house. Joining a union was never a priority for me then, but my eyes were open when I was never a priority for me. Then, employers, when I overheard my husband, employer, narrating how the union in his working place fought to secure reversal of a colleague termination in his office, which I also prompted many workers in the organization to join a union. This prompted me to ask questions, and I was directed to the National Union Hotel and Personal Service Worker Office, and I was enlightened on what I can gain by being a union member, especially as contained in Convention 189, that we are celebrating its adoption today. I was informed that the convention recognized domestic worker as a worker and they can join a union. That I'm entitled to have written contract, annual and maternity leave, and other benefits too. So I joined union in 2018 and elected as zonal treasurer in 2021. At the outbreak of pandemic in 2020 and the lockdown that followed, life became very difficult for many of us, depending solely on the me-agreed salary. We collected monthly, most resulted into begging and collecting food on credit. Many families were disrupted, and some, including me, had mental stress. Thanks to the leadership of National Union of Hotels and Personal Service Workers, who readily engage in mental health expertise to counsel members and staff on how to live their life and survive the pandemic. During this period too, members also benefited from International Domestic Workers Federation Solidarity food distribution for domestic workers, which we all benefited. To crown it all, this income generation activities initiative came, and I was lucky to be selected to participate in the training. In my zone, 20 domestic workers, both working and those that lost their job, participate in 2 days training. We were trained on how to make liquid soap, Vaseline, curry, spices to cook different foods, and peanuts. While everybody could not participate in the training, beneficiaries have accepted to train other members that may be interested in the empowerment project. All the 20 members trained in my zone were supported with 10,000 Naira only to start the business. For me, I concentrated in producing liquid soap and spices because the market is available in my community. I only need to display it in front of my house for sale. The return have been encouraging me. Attending to vocational training has totally turned the fortune of my family because I now have my money to support my family with the proceeds from the product which I produce and sell. Those frequent quarrels at home due to realize on only one source of income has ceased, and I have even reactivated my bank account to save some money. The training and the support to start the business has made me to become a responsible mother to my 4 children and wife to my husband, thereby bringing back happiness, peace, love, unity to my home. Because what I cannot do for myself and my family before, now I can do it, supporting my family with positive from myself. Based on the stories spread by beneficiaries, the number of domestic workers that have joined the union in the 6 local government areas that we cover has continued to increase during our first quarterly meeting in April 2022. 301 new members were reported with majority ready to pay union due. This training has increased the visibility of union within our various communities with these income generation activities and with the food items distributed during the pandemic, which was never done by other unions. Finally, with the benefits that we have enjoyed through this program, I wish to join my voice with other beneficiaries to thank the International Domestic Workers Federation and my union not to be tired of training and retraining members, and the need to empower them to stand on their feet, and members too should not forget always tell the union to others and pay their due as when due. I thank the International Domestic Workers Federation Africa team for giving me this opportunity to say few words on this occasion of 10th anniversary of approval of Convention 189. Thank you. Thank you,
Amina, so much. You have explained so thoroughly this activity that has given you peace, unity, and love, like for your family, but also I imagine for the larger union, because as you said, when you are individually strong, that strengthens your union as well, because the gains are collective. Thank you so much, Amina. We will be moving to our next speaker from Latin America. Charlene Dos Santos Brito is joining us. She is a Black woman, mother, counselor of the State Council of Women's Rights, and domestic worker by day. She will talk to us about union belonging and capacity building as a means of sustainability. Charlene, welcome. Can you hear us and can you...
Olá, bom dia.
Hola.
Bom dia.
Hello, good morning. Good morning, everyone. I'm here with you at this very important time. I would like to thank the invitation, our comrades that do such an important work and allow us to gather and exchange experiences to have better days for our class. So in this significant day of the International Day of Domestic Workers, I would like to thank all the fighters, the domestic worker fighters, and to celebrate the Convention 189, which is the international law for our class. I would like to thank our leadership all over the world. These are references for our movement in Brazil, such as Laudelina and Creuza Oliveira. These women believed in the power of our organization and supporting us in our fight for rights, not only labor rights, but also for social rights. In Brazil, we are organized as state unions through the National Federation of Domestic Workers, FENATRAD. And this allows us to support other domestic workers to strengthen our union and our international federation in educating them about their security and labor rights, and show also in terms of training, but not only labor issues are important, but we have other issues that interfere in our lives. And with the support of IDWF, we have a program that it's called Domestic Workers Have Rights. In the northeast of Brazil, we add the ratification of Convention 189 for better living conditions, because we demand from the governments, both at local, regional, and national level, the development of nurseries for our children, better schools, schools with good food for our children, decent housing for domestic workers. We have fought for the right to the city. So we have a broader view that goes beyond labor rights. Thinking about our context, the domestic workers in Brazil are really struggling for nurseries. This is a right that we have. So we demand a decent place for our children to stay while we are working. Taking care of our bosses' children, taking care of our bosses' homes. We want a safe place for our children to have for our children to have education, to be protected from crimes. So we really need nursery for our children, and we are demanding this from local and state governments. We know that the campaigns that are being developed for nurseries, in fact, the government policies for nurseries is poor, is not sufficient. This is why the strengthening the domestic workers union is important. So we have to fight for labor social rights. I'm very happy to be here today and to say that it is essential for domestic workers to increase the memberships of our unions. to educate our comrades as to their rights. So on this special day, I think it's essential to strengthen our unions and to take into account broader issues beyond labor rights. And we have to be aware that we are domestic workers and that we do have rights. I thank you very much. I know our time is really short, but we would like to contribute as much as possible. I'm very happy to be here to exchange experiences, and I really feel happy to be together with you. We domestic workers have rights. Thank you.
We are so thrilled to have you, Charlene, and also we have learned a lot from your experience with FENATRAD. And if you can see the happy faces and the ovations and the applause on the screens, I think that is a shared common feeling in the room. So thank you so much indeed. Moving on to our next speaker, we have from the Middle East, IDWF's Community Liaison Officer, Cheryl Malou Valiantes, joining us. She has been a migrant worker in Qatar for 10 years and has held key positions in a number of Filipino socio-civic multi-sectoral organizations. She will tell us about domestic workers organizing and collective strategy through COVID-19. Malou?
Hi. Hello, sisters and brothers. Thank you, Rula. Greetings from Doha, Qatar. First of all, I would like to wish everybody a happy International Domestic Workers Day. Thank you so much for having me here and talk about domestic workers organizing in Qatar and the collective strategy through COVID. As we all know and lived through it, the global health crisis brought devastation. Loss of income, lack of access to social security, mobility restrictions, and loss of life. And the domestic workers were hit the hardest, on top of the existing struggles within the employment relationship. Next slide, please. Thank you. I will be sharing briefly what brought the domestic workers together and how they continued to grow during the pandemic, and what were the IDWF's role to support them in these two levels. What was the impact of FIFA to the labor issues, and how to sustain the work beyond FIFA. Next slide, please. So even before the first wave of COVID-19 hit us all, the labor-related issues have been one of the glues that kept domestic workers grouped together, supporting each other through education and training, organized by IDWF and other trade union partners. The health crisis did make everything harder, but also brought positive outcome, which is solidarity and resilience, which made them stronger as an organization. So this picture and the next one shows Filipino and Kenyan domestic worker organization mobilizing whatever small resources they have to support those who were in dire situation, physically, emotionally, and economically. Next slide, please. So the health crisis did not stop our advocacies. We developed resilience and adapted to the changing times, tapped on resources such as virtual conferencing to continue our work on the ground. In this picture, we did virtual paralegal training for Kenyan domestic workers group in collaboration with the leaders of Filipino organizations such as Hero Qatar and BMKQ. Next slide, please. The virtual platform even provided cross-regional connection, for example, migration issues from countries of origin and countries of destination, the gender-based violence and harassment consultation, and a lot more. Next slide, please. Allow me to introduce two of the groups that have continued to exist or survive the pandemic. First off is the Filipino group, Bayanihang Domestic Workers Qatar. The left picture shows us, this is pre-pandemic time. We hold domestic workers' rights awareness raising activity in the public park. The group was then an ad hoc committee of Bayanihan Qatar, and parks are not an ideal place to conduct such activity. Now, through the support of IDWF, the leadership training, community consultations, organizing activities are held in a safer venue. In November 2020, BDWQ was formally launched as a separate organization with 300 plus members led by Rosario Chinks Daño. The organization is interlinked with other Filipino organizations whom they collaborate with skills training, outreach projects, other and paralegal training. IDWF supported the first OSH training, Occupational Safety and Health training for BDWQ in September 2020, conducted by BMKQ together with the Ministry of Labor. And we are expecting their affiliation application with us within the next few months. Next slide, please. Yes, Maggie and Joyce, founders of Kenyan Household Service Workers Organization, stayed connected with IDWF since the national workshop in 2019. It's mostly on how to help domestic workers who were falsely charged of absconding, those who were abandoned on the street, in need of basic necessities, and assistance for sick or injured returnees. We're talking about from air tickets to bus fares in Kenya. So the group felt invisible and helpless that time. In March 2020, they decided it is time to take this to the next level, form a group that would really cater to the unique situations of the domestic workers. So the name KHSW, or Kenyan Household Service Workers, was conceptualized. They created a WhatsApp group in June 2020. From 3 people became 14. Now the one group chat group had reached the limit of participants. So it's 250 plus, and it's still growing. In late 2021, the group decided to take it a step further, and their CBL draft is almost done. So from then on, Maggie and the other core leaders have been the lifeline of Kenyan domestic workers, as well as the company cleaners in varying levels of distress. So IDWF has been providing them the right tools to strengthen their capacity as an organization through leadership and paralegal trainings, as well as the OSH training planned for August this year. Next slide, please. Yes, this is a diagram on IDWF's role in supporting the domestic workers group for their establishment and survival in the different phases of the pandemic. Now, here in the pre-pandemic, we provided avenues for direct conversation with the relevant government agencies, as well as supported the leadership trainings and workshop, as well as organizing activities. And these two things are being brought up to the present. So came the height of the pandemic, almost 300 domestic workers benefited from the Solidarity Fund project for their critical needs. The COVID-19 impact study provided also a baseline for areas of focus for future work and establishing contacts with other nationalities. If I may just add, under this phase, we gave space for virtual discussions between workers, and this helped the organizations strong. So now with the new normal, we provided also opportunities for breaking engagements for domestic worker leaders, as well as conducted training using hybrid conferences, social media platforms to increase membership and information dissemination. Next slide, please.
Malu, if you could wrap up, please. We've used up.
Yes,
the time.
yes. Yes. Okay. This is highlighting the impact of FIFA World Cup on labor issues. Okay, so the FIFA, as you all know, is happening very soon. So it provided opportunity for the stakeholders, to come to the table and tackle labor issues. So reforms were made, removal of exit permit, job mobility, wage protection system, labor disputes, grievance system, and the non-discriminatory minimum wage. So after this World Cup, what are we going to expect? What happens next? So next slide, please. Next, okay. So to also promote, or one of the key projects to sustain this is the digital platform for workers. So IDWF collaborated with BWI. So this app is called My Workmate for migrants workers in all trades, that will primarily serve as workers' daily work tool to connect workers to appropriate information. Next slide, please. And the last one, yes. So these are the rich features of the app. It's got, most important here is the grievance management. So this is, as you can see, while waiting for the approval from the App Store and Google for the name and branding, the technical team is working overtime to get these features ready and schedule the pilot rollout and train the paralegal team. So that will be all from my side. I'm giving the floor back to Rula. Thank you all so much.
Thank you, Cheryl, so much for sharing about the work that is happening in Qatar. And indeed, we see so many examples of domestic worker unions taking on new horizons, adapting to new technologies, and owning their own platforms online and offline. Very, very powerful work. Thank you. And finally, for this panel, we are joined from Jamaica by Shirley Price, who is an award-winning domestic worker leader and the president of the Jamaica Household Workers Union. She will be talking to us about her union's collaboration with the government to access support during the pandemic and the creation of an institute for the development of the capacities of domestic workers in Jamaica. Shirley, welcome, and the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'll just talk a little briefly about the Caribbean because we are doing so much work in the Caribbean. So we across the Caribbean have been fighting for recognition of domestic workers as workers and to enjoy and exercise our rights as all other workers. We, so we would not be left behind in time of crisis as we have been through. We were far from being intimidated by the adverse reality. The leaders of the region organization of domestic workers capitalized and the unprecedented COVID crisis, reclaiming our demands for decent work, making our rights and advocating for appeals to be included in the government agenda. We stood strong, we fought, and with all our might, and we won some, but we lose some. We have been meeting with 7 Caribbean islands, strategizing of how we can move forward as Caribbean. We have been able to mobilize more than ever, fighting with the government and to keep employers in check of workers' rights. We in the Caribbean know better understand how decent work is an added value to resilience. We have gained one ratification, which is in Antigua of Convention 190, and we have also gained the sexual harassment laws in Jamaica. So we are moving forward. Resilience has been a part of our daily conversation, which each of us trying to cope with the impact, but fighting and to put action in place for our resilience. Some of the what we discussed and what we have put in place is effective communication. We must communicate effectively to be heard, whether it's in the media, to the government, to employers, or the wider society. You have to be out there all the time talking. Networking. work in partnership to build consensus around our issues. We have been doing that. You know, we have begun to reach out to potential allies who can help to build bridges between us and the officials. In some countries, they can't even approach the government. In Jamaica, we are better off because every day we badger in with the government. We have to scale up. What I mean by scaling up, building a strong structure in our organization for success. As building that structure, I realize that in our union, building that success is the backbone of our organization. You must build or scale up to be successful. You have to sustain your organization. Get your organization attractive. Have fundraising. We have a lot of fundraising events since recent. For the past 3 months, we have been doing fundraising every other Friday. Friday, which is a soup kitchen, or we have cake sale. You know, we do different. We have a partner plan where domestic workers come together and show a partner that every week one domestic worker would get draw and they would throw back so other domestic worker can get that benefit. So each person help each other so they can go out and do alternate livelihood to build and empower themselves. We in Jamaica has been very busy. Four executive member of our union has been trained in training of the trainers by the ILO. We have been training digital literacy. We have been training participatory methodology. Words with me. We have been training communication. We have been training communication. And through that training, we in turn are training our domestic workers, ourselves as trainers. We have one training coming up for soap making in July. Wednesday, June 16, we'll be graduating 25 domestic workers from our training institute. First set of trainees from the training institute will be graduating Wednesday in computer literacy. That's our first training because we know that in the COVID, we have challenge in getting domestic workers to go online to register to get benefits. So they were denied, they didn't have access. So this is our training has completed with 25 domestic workers, and Wednesday we'll be having our first graduation. We have our tagline for that day is domestic worker power the economy, believe in us. And the Minister of Labor will be there at the graduation. Also, Elizabeth will be there at the graduation and to the launch of our manual. We wrote a manual for employee, and that will be launched on Wednesday also. We have done 6 public service announcements and sexual harassment and the rights of domestic workers, which will be launched also. The Minister of Labor will be there to launch those activity. We have done a business plan for the school. They also work at Training Institute. We have done a business plan for the school. We have done a 3-year sustainability plan for our union. We have increased membership. Even though the COVID was going on, we have increased membership because, as I said, you have to make your union attractive. So the partner, the fundraising, the what we have given out over the many months with help from IDWF, the care packages have made our union attractive. And we are always in the media. Always in the media. So because of that, domestic workers heard us and come to join. With the collaboration of ILO and the Minister of Labor, we have given 50 domestic worker grant of $100,000 to start businesses. We ourselves, through the IDWF and OSF, have given 20 grant to domestic workers also to start to do alternate livelihood. and we have pictures of all those activities. We have done a fundraising, online fundraising, how to do online fundraising, and I think 4 of us have done that training. So we are now trying to set up our online fundraising, and we have set up our social media pages. We have our Facebook page, we have our Instagram page, we have our Twitter page. So we are all there, we are all over the place, working. So we are very grateful that we can say that we are growing stronger and stronger, and we are thanking all our donors, you know, that has been working with us. One thing I must say, the last thing I must say, collaborate. Powerhouse, that is collaboration with other agencies and other companies. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Shirley. Very well said. And it is never only relief, actually. So even sustaining unions through the pandemic and through everything that has hit us for the past 3 years is an act of mobilizing and organizing and unionizing, all of this coming together. I will ask the technical team to bring back our speakers from the first and the second panel to the screen to pin them, so we can ask them a few questions now, but of course, give them also a virtual round of applause to everybody like this, for those of us whose cameras are on. Thank you everybody for the wonderful interventions. We have learned quite a lot. I will tell you the first question that is in the Q&A chat box, while reminding our participants that this is your chance. We not only have domestic worker leaders and unionists, but we also have funder representatives here with us. How frequently do we get the chance to speak directly like this? So please send us your question. The first question we have here in the Q&A box, and I will rephrase a little bit if you would allow me, Rodolphe. The question is, how can we be resilient when we do not have income? And perhaps the question could also reflect on the fact that leading a union is oftentimes not a paid job. So what are your secrets to being resilient for yourselves and your unions, knowing that this is the landscape that you are navigating? Anybody would like to take the floor on this?
Sherlyn, me parecería que sos la más indicada para responder esto.
Charlene, I think you are the
Charlene,
best
you've been
person
chosen.
to respond. So you've been chosen.
Yes.
Ah, tá. Então, pega de surpresa essas coisas, mas vamos lá. A primeira coisa a partir do momento que a gente...
Well, you surprised me. The first thing is that when we are aware of our rights, when we know that many other women went through this process and they have granted this legacy for domestic workers. And we know that before our working conditions were much worse. So to be in the leadership of a union allow us to be aware that we go forward with the help of our partners. But it is the cause that gives us strength and resistance that makes us go forward with our fight. To be resistant, we often, even with the payment of the contributions of our comrades, so the money we obtained for them through their contributions, we know that even if we don't have money, that we are domestic workers, that we have a very busy day, we go from our work to the union, we arrive at the union with the same clothes, with the smelling chemicals from our work, without shoes, we know that we are in the union for love. So we are not paid for that, but just to be aware that domestic workers were rescued from a slave-like condition, that she becomes aware of their rights, and this strengthens us and makes us go forward in our struggle with or without funding. So the rights, we know that there are other issues such as racism, as sexism that influence that, but we want to go forward. We want to continue fighting. So we always try to find a way to go, to advance. So sometimes somebody calls us and says, well, I'm going through a very difficult situation, I'm being harassed. So we try to support this person, and we, in fact, donate ourselves to our union, to the federation. This is the idea, to resist and to give the most of ourselves. And if we look backwards, we see that we have gone a long way forward. And to be here with you, this is an incredible achievement now. And this is the resistance, is the love for the struggle for our cause.
Thank you, Charlene. Very well said. I will also take your permission to stay maybe 10 minutes over time. I think everyone has a lot of energy, and we still can continue this discussion a little bit, not to mention that we also have a closing statement that looks into the future. So don't go anywhere just yet. I will read out the question from the Q&A that is specifically for Myrtle, coming from Los Angeles. And the question is that how was the C-189, I'm assuming, adopted? How was this agreement reached? Because many people in Peru were part of the struggle. So if you can take us through a little bit of that history. And I also see some hands from the attendees. I see Yani del Carmen Hurtado, Maria Reyes, and Karime Pimentel. If you could write your questions in the chat or in the Q&A box, we will get to them, okay? And in the meantime, Myrtle, the question was for you. Carmen, can you hear us and unmute yourself? I mean, Myrtle, sorry.
Myrtle, me parece que no se puede desmutear.
Okay,
I think Myrtle can unmute herself.
Okay, and we have a French speaker, Rodolphe, in the chat box saying that they cannot hear the interpretation. So just double checking that the French channel, no, it's fine. The French channel is okay. So, so the questions so far are, how did we reach C-189? Because Maria, who is from Peru, who is not from Los Angeles, is asking about the journey that led to it. And we also have a question for Ghada about any advice that she has for domestic worker unions that they can take to increase their sustainability. Go ahead, Myrtle.
Rola, would you like me to come in, or are we waiting for a sister from Peru?
I think we just... Myrtle, is your microphone working? Because if you just unmuted, I think we can take your response.
No hay agua, así que... No hay agua, así que...
Me parece que no funciona su micrófono.
Okay, it doesn't work. So,
O no
Ghada, please
escucha.
do respond to your question.
¿Ah? Bueno,
Can we also just take a moment to mute ourselves if we're not speaking? And Ghada, please go ahead with any advice that you have for domestic worker unions on sustainability. And if I could follow up on that with an additional one, you have shared with us that Ford has pioneered the true indirect cost budgeting for your own funding. So how have you reached that conclusion, since very few funders, if any, have taken that step so far? So 2 questions for you.
Thank you so much, and thank you for the amazing and most inspiring intervention by our sisters from Asia, Africa, Latin America, and it's so inspiring to listen to the stories in the...
Había mujeres de África, estoy hablando. Brasil, África, Ghana, Estados Unidos, Taiwán.
So it was an interpretation channel conflated on the English. So interpreters, check your channels, please.
Yes.
Go ahead, Ghada.
Yes. From all what I've been hearing from all of you, I believe that one key message is about unions demonstrating relevance and demonstrating benefit to the members during times of crisis. So a key message that seems to be cutting across from what I've been hearing is the ability of unions to demonstrate their importance to the members during this time of crisis. So from income generating activities, from training, from developing new digital apps to ensure that that the members are connected during, for instance, the times of crisis in the case of Qatar. So I see that this is, and also from our experience talking to other unions like street vendors and home-based producers, I see that a key issue here is the ability to demonstrate relevance and encourage new members to come on board. So the expansion of the membership, we're seeing to be more and more one of the key issues and one of the key determinants of expanding not only the membership fees, but also the solidarity amongst the movement, within the movement, and the sustainability beyond only the financial sustainability. Because again, in the current context, we are seeing that unions are losing members rather than gaining new members. So I feel that the ability of unions to show the benefit to the members and attract new members is a key issue to start thinking about. And secondly is starting to develop alternative sources of funding. So again, I'm connecting this to some of the work that our arts and culture organizations and activists have been working on. And they have seen very clearly that during the times of COVID and even before that, that the donor funding is going down. There are dwindling resources from the side of donors. And many of them have started to look at potential income generating activities for their members, but also for the unions as well, to maintain the operations of unions beyond the current funders. And thirdly is looking at, and this is part of alternative sources of funding beyond the income generation, is looking again at possibilities for crowdfunding, which has different levels of success. So not everyone's experience with crowdfunding has worked very well, but it's something to be mapped out, to be explored, and to be studied. But I think more and more unions, including IDWF, need to be looking at different sources. And I would say that the basis for it would be the expanding the membership base and including more members into the unions. And to Rola's question about the overhead or the indirect costs and the 30% indirect costs, I mean, this has been based on our experience. So we started investigating with our partners, what are the true costs? What are the true indirect costs? Because initially, and most funders usually keep it at 14%, 12%, 15% at the most. And they would say, like, we were always under the impression that when you submit a proposal, it makes a lot of sense to ensure that you do not exceed this threshold of 12 to 14%. However, as we started being more and more concerned about our partners' sustainability, we started to investigate with them and also solicit the input of financial experts who helped us assess and estimate the true indirect cost, which organizations and unions have been absorbing all the time and not truly covering from the project funding that they continue to get from donors. So, and we thought that 20% would make sense, So we started by 20%. And when we start digging deeper with our partners, we realized that it goes in many cases up to 30% and more. And this is when we reached the decision that for all our new partners, we would calculate for a minimum of 30% indirect cost to make sure that organizations, movements, unions are able to cover the other costs that are not covered through project funding. More and more, we're also shifting to unrestricted funding because, again, shifting away from project funding allows organizations to have the flexibility to support the other costs and the other activities that they wish to do that are part of their strategy, but that are not necessarily falling under one project or another that's funded by a certain donor. So as funders, I think more and more we need to start influencing other funders in the ecosystem to make sure that our funding are not project-based and that we pay a minimum of 30% to cover the indirect cost, and to shift away from project funding and ensure that we're also looking at unrestricted funding to be able to cover the core costs, which are a big part of the costs of unions and organizations that we work with. So I hope that's helpful, and sorry if I took a bit longer, but I wanted to cover all the points. Thank you.
That is very useful, and it is a struggle that is frequently experienced by membership-based organizations where they would have to bear the additional costs coming from projects because of the scarcity of core funding. So definitely this is very helpful to everybody in this room to negotiate in the future. And you are providing an evidence-based testimony as part of the funding world to the fact that this is something that would truly sustain the organizing in the future, especially with this changing landscape. So thank you for that. We will take two more questions that are already here. One is for you, Jasmine, and it says, how important is it to relate to members and also non-members when you organize as part of a domestic worker union? And how do you remain resilient? Because your testimony was quite emotional, and you have been mentioning the importance of collaborating with people on various levels of political affinity. So the question is, how do you do it, and how important is it to be able to have these conversations? I will say the second question as well for the next respondent to prepare themselves. It is, what interventions has IDWF put in place to build the capacity for the resilience of our members, and also commanding Nigeria on the wonderful example of the income generating activities? Jasmine, please.
Okay, my answer is how do I do it? Even me, I don't know how I survive, or how our union and other leaders survive to the resilience of being stronger. Because as I've said a while ago, that aside from the enemy, our number one enemy is the government, the bad employers and brokers, the society, and also ourselves, because it's hard to overcome. But as you learn in organizing, you will develop the empathy and the compassion in your heart, and you need to deliver a good inspiration to members and non-members for sharing their story or sharing their experiences of how do you solve each cases, because each cases we solve has had different stories. So I think this giving inspiration to the members and also to the non-members, because even we don't have much collection of renewal of membership, but there's more to come. They want to be a member of our union, because if we are regularly posting experiences of our cases and stories of the hard work and the hardship of the members who are exploited and how we rescue them, it is gave inspiration to the non-members and also the existing members to continue to support in our union. And also it's very important that we need to always remember to inspire our group, your group, with nice words, comfort them, listen to them, be a good listener, be a good speaker. And when you speak, make sure that it comes from your heart with sincerity.
Thank you, Jasmine. Very good advice indeed. Empathy and solidarity all the way to domestic workers movement. Who would like to tell us about IDWF's plans for resilience? What plan did IDWF put in place to build the capacity for the resilience in the unions that are members to the IDWF?
Yeah, okay. Okay, I think, we have to really say that the IDWF has really become that beacon of hope through over the last years for all the IDWF affiliates, for all the IDWF members, because the IDWF has really tried their best to secure that, that our members don't really suffer, but also see that our members remain active and try to encourage our members to remain active. And I think I was listening to, is it Gada or Jada? I was listening to her and what she was saying to us about independence, becoming independent, how she was saying to us about approaching new funders and things like that. I think that we have got all the weapons to do this. If we put together what we have tried, if we put together what all the affiliate is doing now to see that they can at least maintain their members, at least can keep their doors open, at least can remain the voice for the workers. I think if we put a solid proposal together to show new funders that domestic workers did not stand back with COVID-19, domestic workers did not sit, and start crying and feel sorry for ourselves. We actually stood up. We become actually much stronger. If we look at reality now, we find that we are so much stronger. We are eager. The only thing that set us back is when we start talking about sustainability, the COVID period starts, and that will set us back. And now what is happening, organizations, you first try to get your own organization right again. You first try to get your members back again. You first try to become solid so that your members' mind is open for the way forward for the IDWF. So I think the way forward for the IDWF is to maintain and to make sure that we don't left anybody behind, to support those organizations that are already trying to support themselves, to strengthen them, to make them have broader things in scope. And I also want to say what Jasmine was saying. Our organizations is not just for members, it's for all domestic workers. Because when we won Convention 189, we didn't want it for members. We want it for domestic workers in the world. And therefore, our organization's strength lies in that we go out there and that we mobilize and that we tell the world organizations, come join the IDWF. And I think this is the way. Let the IDWF remain strong. Let us try, yes, to keep some of our funders, and let us try to convince funders that we can put a plan together, and that is what we have done. And yes, we are strong. And I think Elizabeth will add to that, but I think this is the way. And thank you, Jada, for that inspirational talk you give us. It opened our mind again. Don't sit back. Go. You've got a lot of work to be done. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Elizabeth, would you like to add to that?
Yes, thank you, Myrtle, for giving us the energy and the inspiration. And as I've said, we have the plans already on the table. And I take this opportunity to remind each and everyone here that next month in July, we will be having a meeting like this, but region per region. And I have already the dates fixed for each region. So in these regional meetings, we will be having deeper discussion on the plans, including the affiliation fees increase, the sustainability fund, and the crowdfunding training, the capacity building, the leadership training, all these supports. So please get in touch with your regional coordinators or your EXCO members in your region to get the dates and come back on that day. So we will have this planning session with you. Thank you.
Thank you, Elizabeth. And there's an additional question in the chat about when does the IDWF meet? So now I am assuming this is about the Congress, and that is every 4 years, minus when pandemic hits, then it becomes 5. Okay, every 5 years then. So Amina, I see your hand is up, but it's gone now. Did you have anything to add? Amina, please.
All right. With my experience, which I earlier stated, and the benefit derived so far by beneficiaries of income generating activities project in Nigeria, I want to urge the International Domestic Workers Federation to continue to support members for income generating activity training to meet with the sustainability agenda as set at the 2018 Congress in South Africa. It has so far encouraged domestic workers in my zone to join the union, and if the present tempo is sustained, more domestic workers will join the union. From Nigeria, all of us say bravo and viva to International Domestic Workers Federation.
Thank you, Amina, and thank you, panelists. Do not go anywhere yet, but a round of applause for all of you. We have a message from our friend and comrade P.S. Talpart, the president of ACV, a Belgian trade union that offers services to employees in the food and services industry. She is committed to the domestic workers' rights everywhere, and she is sending us a message of solidarity that speaks concretely to what steps IDWF is taking in the future when it comes to the Federation sustainability. So can we please play her message before going to the closing segment with Carmen Brites?
Hello, everyone. I am Pia Stalpaert, president of ACV CSC Food and Services Union, and I'm delighted to speak to you today at this important event for millions of domestic workers around the world, and important for IDWF and for my union organization as well. We have supporting IDWF and domestic workers around the world since the start. And this solidarity is a source of pride for my organization. I'm so proud to see that our activists and colleagues in Belgium are supporting this commitment with strength and conviction. In Belgium and everywhere else, we have to be resilient and in solidarity, because it is with resilience that we will build our rights over time. And it is our solidarity that will maintain our strength. We have faced enormous challenges, and we have yet other challenges to face. But it is only together, in solidarity with each other, that we will succeed. During the pandemic, we all saw how much the world needed care providers and how much domestic workers faced severe discrimination. But now it is the time, and we will never give up. It is the time to stand together more than ever and to move forward with determination. That is why my union, ACV Food and Services, will support all initiatives that will lead to strengthening the activities and sustainability of IDWF. We encourage other organizations to support each other as well. This is also the reason why our union has decided in solidarity to host the next IDWF Congress in Brussels. And I hope to see many of you there sharing hope, our common struggles, our ambitions for the future, and the strength we will deploy to give the rights that domestic workers deserve, because domestic work makes all other work possible. Happy C189 anniversary to you all. In solidarity, all the best. Bye.
So sending gratitude to P.S. Talpart all the way to Belgium, where we will have our Congress next year. And finally, please welcome Carmen Brites, who needs no introduction. She is our Vice President, trade unionist and lawyer from Argentina, for the closing statement. Carmen, the floor is yours.
Bueno, buenas tardes, buenas noches, buenos días.
Good afternoon, good morning, good evening. I am very touched to be able to be here with you because the truth is that this federation, this international federation, has a team in the EXCO. You know, we represent each of our regions. We have our president, Myrtle. We have Elizabeth Tang, our general secretary, and we have, well, the entire EXCO. We all together, we have fought for these 10 years to grow our federation and to make it even more visible. So Nada, thank you, because you introduced the issue of sustainability of the International Federation. Nada, thank you. As you know, our domestic workers unions worldwide are unions that are starting to organize. And they are growing too, and they're seeking more growth. So the sustainability of the union organizations, we don't have that many union organizations, and we just coming out of a pandemic. And so that was, that adversely affected our unions, because as Elizabeth and Myrtle said, when we had to discuss the fees, for example, the membership fees, it was important to have a vision and see how we saw the affiliates that were members of our federation, because we were undergoing a very significant crisis where many, many colleagues did not have enough to be able to pay for the electricity bill in the member organizations, and many of them still don't have a venue where they can get together or receive our colleagues. So we're fighters, as we say, and we always come out of these crises and we learn. We come out reinforced, and it's important to for unions to unionize the leaders. The visibilization of domestic work changed in every single one of our regions. So it's very important to have this in mind. The unionization of our colleagues, the role of unions in the discussions that have to do not only with the defense of rights, but also to have strength as a union organization to be able to have a tripartite discussion with employers, the government, and the workers. We are moving forward regarding workers' rights in the different regions. We know that there's still a lot to do, but many, many comrades are training and they are organizing and they're creating associations. And the reality is that in those countries where we are allowed to have unions, they have to become unions, because the only way in which we can discuss and have the discussion power in a working group or in a collective bargaining agreement, the only ones that have strength are the unions. It's important to have to be able to go to the ILO when they talk about international agreements, because those have to do not only with domestic worker rights, but also with everybody's rights, like C-190, for example, or C-189, which was a very difficult fight that we had to wage to be able to achieve this convention. But it's important to know that we also have many ratifications. However, unfortunately, we're still fighting for the implementation of this great convention. And many of us, many of our countries used this convention as a tool to be able to have a national law, to be able to obtain a national law that protects rights. We know that this is the most vulnerable sector we have, but for society, we are strong. We are fighters. We love our union organization and we love our international federation, because thanks to this federation, many, many countries were able to conduct advocacy actions so that other countries were able to ratify Convention 189, or perhaps have a national law or have social security. So we are on the way to make domestic work more visible as work. And so this exchange of experiences that we have is extremely important within our federation. It's important to continue fighting to be able to provide training so that each one of our organizations can know how to be more sustainable. In which way we can be more sustainable, because if we grow as a union, the federation will grow as well. And therefore, we will be able to be a sustainable federation going beyond the donors. And also, regardless of this, we're going to be a strong federation to be able to continue with this fight to provide decent work and social security and a dignified wage for each one of the comrades around the world, because the voices of domestic workers around the world are here. Those of the world are here, not just one region or another. And the good thing about this federation is, or the important thing about this federation is that we all work jointly. We all work as a team. This EXCO has moved forward significantly within our federation. We want to continue. I want to congratulate each one of the coordinators and the staff members of of this federation, because without them, we would not be able to continue fighting. And I also want to congratulate our domestic worker colleagues and to each one of our union organizations, because they are the main actors in this fight. They are the ones who lead the advancement, the progress of this federation. I'm impressed at Qatar, at Taiwan, what they have done, because these are regions that where where there's danger in organizing. It's important to also highlight what Europe, Latin America have done. All the colleagues from the different regions, Asia, Africa, and of course, this is based on the exchange of experiences that we can have and as an organization, and with the strong leadership that each region has, and the strong EXCO that we have in this federation to be able to continue with this fight. So I would like to thank all the International Federation. I am proud, I feel proud to be part of this federation. I feel stronger to continue fighting with the federation, and I would like to congratulate you all, every single one of you. Without you, not the donors, those who support the IDWF, without you, we wouldn't be where we are, because this goes beyond the money for the projects that we receive. This goes beyond the economic aspect. This is a fight that domestic workers have to dignify our work as work, because this is not help, this is work. We are workers. We provide a service for a remuneration, and we need to be recognized as any other worker. So let's continue in the fight, colleagues, because domestic work is dignified work, and without us, nobody could realize their training. None of us could, if we're not there in their households, in the employers' households, for them to be able to go out to work, they wouldn't be able to do so. So we are very important. We're a very important pillar in people's households. So thank you for all. Let's continue growing. Let's continue becoming stronger. But more than anything, let's grow as unions, because without an important, strong leadership, we won't be able to have the voice and the vote that we always need. So, colleagues who are members of associations, please become unions. You need to become a union. That's what we need. We need the strength of a union. And I also would like to greet, because this is a unity that we have in Latin America, I would like to greet our colleagues from Colactrao, because many of us work, the Secretary General and all the EXCO from the organization. Without unity, there is no strength. Only one person cannot work by him or herself. Everything has to do with the collective effort, together and jointly. So thank you for all, and I congratulate you, because all of you are an example. Take care, and let's continue working together.
Thank you, Carmen. This brings us to the conclusion of our session today. I know everybody's leaving, but before you leave, if you could just turn on your cameras, we will take a picture to remember the celebration we have had together. In the meantime, we have a few next steps for you. Share one learning on social media platforms with your friends about something that you have learned today. Also, get in touch, tell us what you're doing for your own sustainability. And of course, and always, and on the anniversary of C189, call on your government to ratify and implement it. So quickly, if you are opening your cameras, thank you everybody, thank you colleagues, interpreters, everybody who has been on the chat box, on the technical support, on interpretation. We want to see you, we want to memorize this moment. And this is it. So thank you, and Viva Domestic Workers Organizing. See you soon. And thank you for joining us today. Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.
Gracias, intérpretes.